Hi guys, getting started on 3-1 through 3-6, which is getting the main gear set, the tail drive gear. We're gonna get the motor installed, that front transmission, and then the boom clips will go in along with the main shaft installation and tail drive pulley belt. But I will, I probably won't install the boom yet. I'll just have the belt there. Hardware, not a whole lot on this one. 3-1 is for the main gear. 3-2 is for that tail. This is for that front transmission, and then these boom clips installations. To note, I probably will end up using a little bit larger screw so I can get a washer on the other side. So, but yeah, we'll take a look at that when we go. Obviously for the motor mounting, and then the main shaft installation and stuff. But yeah, we'll get started on the main gear set and tail drive set once I get all the parts cleaned through the ultrasonic, and we'll be back with you soon. All right, working on steps 3-1 and 3-2, and that is the main gear and the tail drive gear assembly. There's a note in the manual talking about concentricity of the main gear and the fact that this one-way bearing housing and the gear is an interference fit, which and it said it might be tight. Absolutely, it's a really tight fit. I would not want to force that down. So the manual recommends heating the main gear up to 50 degrees centigrade if it's a tight fit, and that's exactly what we're going to do. To do that, I have designed a stand that holds the main gear and the tail gear at the same time, and a cover. These are both printed from PETG, and my intent is to use my 3D printer build plate, and I'll heat that up to maybe 55, 60 degrees centigrade. Put the stand on the build plate, put the gears, plural, in there. A quick note on that. He doesn't specifically talk about the tail drive gear into the housing here, but mine is as a tight of a fit as the main gear. So I'm going to go ahead and heat up that tail drive gear a little bit as well to perform that step. So basically you get this all loaded in, get the build plate heating up, and then just put the cover over to keep the air concentrated around the main gear. And then once that's heated up to 50 degrees centigrade, take that off and assemble the parts, and that should work out pretty good. Haven't tried it, but we'll see how it goes. Additionally, if I've got a lot of screws that I need to put in a relatively short amount of time, I do a lot of pre-prep, and most of the time I'll just set them on the ground, but I have this little magnetic ring, and it works out good to take the screws. You just you put them on there, and then that allows you to put get the Loctite prepped on all the screws, in this case 10 for the main gear. Gets all the Loctite in there, and then you just have that sitting off to the side. Instead of fumbling one screw at a time, Loctite screw, this allows you to have them all prepped and get them in as that main gear is shrinking back down over to the housing and stuff like that. So I'll end it there. I will show a little clip of what it looks like inside of the 3D printer, and from there we will come back and I'll show a little bit of the assembly of the main gear. I won't do it on the tail gear because it's going to be pretty obvious. It's the same procedure, no need to show it twice. But yeah, we'll see how this works out. Yeah, and we'll go from there. Appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, here's that short clip at the 3D printer. I'm just using a Bamboo Lab X1 carbon. And as you can see, the bed temperature is at 55 degrees. So if you open it up, you can see the cover. Take the cover off, grab looking right at about 46, 47 degrees on the gear right now. Everything looks good. So it'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we will get back to the table and get that main gear assembled. See how this works out. Okay guys, we are back. I've got the screws prepped, and everything's cleaned up. I'm gonna go grab the gear out of the 3D printer and we'll get it assembled. Give me 2 seconds here. Okay, that's right out of the 3D printer. Now let's check the fit. Slides together perfectly. Can't ask for any better than that. Yep, everything aligns perfect. Now we get the top ring on. And shoot, let's get that out here. I didn't have that lined up well enough. Hold on. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, that looks good. Now we'll take this one. It's kind of hard to do under the camera. Okay, so everything fits in there great. Now, that little bit of heat, that worked out awesome. So yeah, so that worked out real good. So now I just come over here, take one screw at a time, and just screw it down. Go cross corner here. Okay. Okay, wow, that worked out great. That worked out better than I had anticipated. Everything lined up nice, easy to install. Okay, grab the next one. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm just taking them and barely touching right now. I'm not snugging anything up, and they have another note in there that says not to screw these too tight. So that's the 4 there, and then I will now I'll just go back and forth in a diagonal pattern, just a little bit at a time. Just a little bit of snugging up here. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, it's a little bit longer step here, not a lot, but yep. And just like that, the main gear is complete, and that heating up on the 3D printer plate worked out like a charm. So I'll do the tail drive, and I'll get back with you guys here in a second. Okay, we're back. 3.2 is done, and the tail drive gear worked out just as well as the main gear. Just got that heated up, and then everything slid together really, really nice. Torqued everything down. Yeah, no problems whatsoever. Yeah, real nice quality piece. I just have that silver mark in there. I've already put it on this Dubro kind of high point balancer, and everything, of course, checked out great. No need to do any balancing or, you know, drilling holes or anything like that. It balances perfectly out of the box. To note, I don't use the included thinner rod. I use the actual main shaft to check for any kind of issues with balance. But as you can see, you put it on the balancer and it just stays everywhere that you put it. No problem. And I've already balanced these separately as well, so just to check with the tail drive gear off and again, no issues whatsoever. Real good quality piece. Yeah, I can't, no heavy side or anything like that. So that's ready to install into the helicopter. So I will get the parts together for the next step, and we'll be right back. Okay, getting started on 3-3 and 3-4. That is the motor mount assembly and that front counter gear transmission set. So nothing really to note on the motor mount. I may add some heat shrink to these wires just to protect them. These run in pretty close proximity to the main frames. I guess I could bend these, but I typically don't like to bend them much more than they come out of the box. So we'll just take a look and see what that looks like as we put it together. This front counter gear calls for 4 of these cupped washers on the upper bearing block, and I'm going to try to get the 4 up there and then 2 more on the bottom. You have to be real careful with the forward bottom bearing block bolt. It's a real tight fit or clearance to that tail drive main gear or the tail drive gear. So you just got to be careful and see what the clearance is. I see why he doesn't want one there, but we'll evaluate that. And if I can get one on there, even if I have to notch it or something, I might do that. But we'll take a look and see what it looks like as we assemble it and get the final main shaft in and the clearance set up. So, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So I'm going to use the 3 cupped washers there. And these 3 cupped washers, or these 6 total that I've got here, are not, oh, let me zoom in real quick, that'll make it easier. These are not RVE ones, these are the miniature aircraft cupped washers, and I had some left over. I actually buy these in bulk as well. So I'll use these because I took the 4 that were up there, I diverted them to the tail boom clips. That will allow me to spread the load out on the one side and run some flat washers on the other side to help kind of spread that load out. But as you can see, I've got just some regular hex nuts here. When I do the dry assembly, I'll use the hex nuts, and then once we go to final assembly, then I'll use the nylon insert lock nuts. And the reason why that is, I only use the nylon insert lock nuts one time only. For me, I use them once, and once I pull them off, I throw them away. I buy those in bulk as well, so you know, I don't mind throwing away a 2 to 3 cent you know, bolt there, or not, sorry, a nut, but you get the point. Anyway, I will get started on those steps, and we'll come back and take a look at it. Okay guys, we're back. All those steps were completed. Pretty self-explanatory. Here's that front transmission counter drive with the 3 cupped washers and the 1 washer that's the one bolt that doesn't have a washer on there for gear clearance. And we'll evaluate that, and if we can fit something in there, we will. But if not, no big deal. The boom clip hardware with the cupped washers is in on that side, and if you look on the opposite side here, there's the flat washers I put on, and then obviously just the hex nuts as I previously discussed there. The motor went in just fine, no issues. Everything is slid back until I get the main and the tail drive gear in, and then I will set mesh and everything like that. But also to note, I didn't need any heat shrink here. There's plenty of clearance between the wires and then the frames and stuff like that. So yeah, no heat shrink required. Also, if you notice, the ESC tray is not installed at the moment. I'll put this off to the side. And if you look here, I'll just real quick, I did get in that Tribunus 150 ESC, and I'm just working on a adapter plate that adapts it from the ESC to the factory mounted plate. Now I could go ahead and just redesign this and then make a new carbon plate that matches this up, but in case anybody doesn't have those capabilities, I just made a quick 3D printed plate. And it's just 3 millimeters thick, countersunk for the ESC holes, and then just pass through for the bolts. I'll explain that in greater detail, maybe post some pictures up on the RVE Heli Club Facebook page or something like that. So yeah, that's going pretty well. Moving on to the next couple of steps will be the main shaft installation and then the main gear. To note, this mast bolt with the washer that goes on the bottom. And my intent is to Loctite this down prior and then install this from the bottom, since the ESC tray is not in right now. So that's my intent there. Obviously just the other hardware associated with it. This one goes through the tail drive gear assembly. And then this is for the, sorry for the bump there. This is to remove any of the plate up and down in the main shaft. So I will get working on that, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna cut in here real quick. I wasn't happy with the way that the counter gear was lining up, and the gear mesh was not good at all. It wasn't consistent, and I could not get it to not be tight in some spots and too loose in the others. But what I found is there's nothing wrong with the design. The bearings have a little bit of play in them, and I don't know if you can see that. See it rock. You can probably see the gear rocking just a tiny bit, but that little bit is not allowing the gears to sit parallel to each other and mesh correctly. So what I did is I came up with this design real quick. I did some prototype testing with a 3D printed part, and then I milled these out of 2mm carbon fiber. And what this essentially does is this takes and locks, basically connects the upper bearing block to the lower bearing block, so that when you slide it in for the gear mesh, everything remains perpendicular and parallel. So hopefully you guys will like that. I'll actually put a post on the RVE group, but yeah, I decided to make that, and it worked out fabulous. So I will get back and show you where we're at. Thanks. Okay, we're back. We got the main shaft installed, the main gear and the tail drive gear. And as you saw in the last clip, I talked about the front transmission gear set and tying those upper and lower bearing blocks together. That plate or support worked out really nice, made setting the gear mesh much easier. Everything is parallel and perpendicular now. Speaking of gear mesh, what I use is just printer paper. I found some thicker printer paper that's 0.13 millimeters thick, and that works out really good. The manual calls for 0.1 to 0.2 millimeters for gear mesh, and no issues there. Once it's all set up, it's perfect. Yeah, no problems whatsoever. Everything came out good. So nothing really else to note on steps 3 in the manual, but yeah, everything came out nice, and looking forward to starting the next steps, which are getting the head assembled and everything like that. And it'll be part 5 of the videos, but it'll be steps 4 in the manual. But yeah, everything is coming along really nice, no issues. And thanks for watching, guys. Hope you found some value in this one. This was a little bit longer than the last couple of months, but there's a little bit more to cover. But I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.